Hello and welcome to the newest episode of Fantasy News. I am Herald Novus and I will be your host today. Let us begin. Number 1. Meta's 16.68 billion reckoning. Let's start with the biggest number of the week. Meta Platforms has agreed to pay as much as $16.68 billion to settle a landmark lawsuit brought by 29 US states, which accuse the company of deliberately engineering Facebook and Instagram to be addictive to children, misrepresenting the safety of its platforms and unlawfully harvesting the personal data of minors. The settlement was filed in federal court on Wednesday, right in the middle of a trial in Oakland, California, before US District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers, a trial that had already featured damaging testimony from Instagram chief Adam Mosseri and current and former Meta employees who worked on teen engagement research. Mark Zuckerberg himself had been expected to take the stand before the deal came together. Here is what Meta is actually agreeing to do. The company will roll out daily time caps and overnight usage blocks for teenage users, tighten its age verification systems, and expand parental controls. Changes California Attorney General Rob Bonta called real change, real transparency, and real enforceable protection for children. According to Meta's own statement, the total settlement is closer to $18 billion once distributed over a 10-year period, with participating states receiving roughly $12.7 billion of that, about 70% of the total payout. A separate slice, $459.3 million, resolves an entirely different set of claims tied to the Cambridge Analytica data scandal out to California, Illinois, New Mexico, and Washington, D.C. Meta is denying any wrongdoing, but the timing tells its own story. This settlement lands weeks after Meta lost both phases of a separate landmark lawsuit brought by New Mexico, a March-July verdict ordering $375 million in damages, followed by an August 6th ruling that found the company had created a public nuisance and taxed on another $167 million. As one Cornell law professor put it during the trial, Meta is now facing the same reckoning that once hit the makers of Asbestos and Agent Orange. Once liability sticks, the lawsuits don't stop coming. And they are not stopping. Snap, Google's YouTube, and ByteDance TikTok are all still facing thousands of similar lawsuits in state and federal courts, and a separate trial against Meta, specifically brought by the state of Tennessee, is already underway in Nashville. Class action style litigation from individuals is piling up too. A Los Angeles jury already ordered Meta and Google to pay $6 million combined in a separate case brought by an individual plaintiff earlier this year. And a Kentucky school district settled for $27 million in the first case that actually made it all the way to the trial. Both companies say that intend to appeal those individual verdicts, even as this much larger multi-state settlement moves forward. What's genuinely notable is the enforceability angle. All parties involved are waiving their right to appeal once the court issues a final judgment, which means, barring some unforeseen procedural snag, these usage limits are locking in as a permanent feature of how minors experience Facebook and Instagram going forward, not just a temporary publicity gesture. For a company that spent the last decade insisting engagement metrics and child safety weren't in conflict, this is the most expensive admission yet that the regulators and juries disagree. Number 2. Pennywise won't scare you anymore, like it used to. Tim Curry, the man behind Frank-N-Furter in Rocky Horror, Pennywise in It, and Wadsworth in Clue, has died at 80. He passed peacefully at his Los Angeles home Tuesday night. Police confirmed there was no foul play. Curry had used a wheelchair since a 2012 stroke, telling an interviewer just last year that he still couldn't walk. Tributes poured in instantly. Eric Idle called him our first King Arthur, and the Muppets paid tribute to his role as Long John Silver in Muppets Treasure Island. Curry never married and leaves behind decades of cult classic performances that shaped generations of horror and comedy fans alike. Number 3. A country legend, gone at 80. Dolly Parton, arguably the single most beloved figure in American music, has died at her Nashville home. She was 80. Her family's statements, shared through her nephew, Brian Seaver, called it a rhinestone life that shone bright enough for the world to see. Her publicist, Marcel Parisio, later confirmed she had been quietly battling cancer, adding that Parton had been open about various health issues over the past 2 years, a period that began when she lost her husband of nearly 60 years, Carl Dean, back in March of last year. Pardon's career is almost impossible to summarize in one breath. She wrote more than 3,000 songs, including Jolene and I Will Always Love You. The latter turned into a global phenomenon when Whitney Houston covered it for The Bodyguard. She starred in and wrote the title track for 9 to 5, a film and song that became an anthem for American women in the workplace. And beyond the music, her philanthropy reshaped what celebrity giving looks like. Her Imagination Library program, founded in 1995 and inspired by her father, who never learned to read, has donated more than 300 million free books to children around the world since birth through age 5. The public reaction has been enormous. Fans have been gathering at Dollywood, the theme park she helped build in her hometown region of East Tennessee, leaving flowers outside her recording studio on Nashville's Elmwood Street. Miley Cyrus, whose godmother Pardon became through her friendship with Billy Ray Cyrus, wrote on Instagram that she now has "An angel by my side," recalling a recent conversation with Pardon about music and metamorphosis. Tennessee state lawmakers have even proposed legislation to create an annual 9 to 5 day in her honor. What makes Pardon's death land so heavily isn't just the scale of her catalog, it's the almost universal nature of her public image. In an entertainment landscape defined by division, she was one of the last figures nearly everyone agreed to love, spanning country, pop, and Hollywood for 7 consecutive decades. In the hours after Dolly Parton's death was confirmed, crowds began gathering at Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, the theme park she helped create and that carries her name to this day. Guests were photographed leaving flowers, singing her songs together, and simply standing in a gaze in tribute. Georgia's governor issued a statement mourning alongside Tennessee, calling her an exceptional talent. It's the kind of spontaneous, cross-generational outpouring usually reserved for heads of state. Proof that for millions of fans, Dolly Parton wasn't just a country star, she was family. Number 4. GTA 6 leaks again, and Rockstar finally talks. GTA 6 has been leaked for the 3rd time in its development cycle, and this time the saga just wrapped up with an actual statement from Rockstar itself. It started on August 18th, when a hacking group calling itself Cyber League began posting gameplay clips and what appeared to be an entire in-game map of the fictional state of Leonida. Over the following days, the group released roughly half a dozen more clips, a protagonist drinking on a boat, a car chase ending in a shootout with the police, footage of a taser being used, and a playing sequence unlocked after the hacker asked followers to vote by buying its self-created cryptocurrency token. According to Axios, Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar's parent company, lost roughly $2 billion in market capitalization amid the initial leak, though the value has since rebounded. Cyber League claims the entire campaign is a protest against anti-consumer industry practices, specifically Rockstar's decision to sell GTA 6 Physical Edition as a code in a box, rather than on an actual disc, and the broader industry shift away from the physical media entirely. The group published a manifesto alongside the footage and threatened to leak source code and additional material from other publishers if its demands weren't met. For days, Rockstar stayed silent while issuing copyright takedowns across social media, and skepticism circulated online about whether the footage was genuine or an older doctor's build. Reputable leaker Nate the Hate suggested some clips were over a year old. That changed today. Rockstar confirmed the leaked footage was legitimate, calling it heartbreaking for our team, and admitting it was obviously not how we intended for you to see the game after all this time. The studio confirmed Grand Theft Auto 6 remained on track for a November 19th release, and that an extended official look at the game will premiere on Netflix later today before hitting YouTube a few hours later. It's a strange, almost unprecedented dynamic, one of the most anticipated games in history, having its own marketing calendar effectively hijacked by an anonymous hacker running a meme coin. Whatever Cyber League's actual motives are, Rockstar now has to compete with its own leaked footage for the narrative heading to the launch. A problem money alone might not fully solve. Number 5. The GTA 6 leaker isn't just a hacker, it's also a crypto scammer. Here is the part of the GTA 6 leak story that sounds made up but isn't. The hacker group Cyber League attached its own meme coin ticker Cyber League to every single leaked clip, watermarking the footage and asking fans to buy the token to vote on what gets leaked next. A Twitter account called Stop Killing Games publicly warned people not to send the group any money, no matter how much sympathy you may feel. No one knows what CyberLeak's promised secret project actually is. Whatever it is, one of gaming's most anticipated leaks in years somehow became a crypto marketing stunt. Number 6. Anthropic's $1 trillion countdown. The race to be the first major AI lab to hit the public markets is heating up, and Anthropic looks like it's about to win it. The company confidentially filed a draft S1 registration statement with the SEC back on June 1st, the standard opening move before a company goes public. This filing came days after Anthropic closed a $65 billion Series H funding round at a $965 billion valuation, at the time a figure that pushed past rival OpenAI's own valuation. Now, according to multiple outlets citing people familiar with the process, Anthropic is preparing to publicly file its IPO paperwork as soon as the end of August, which would put a Nasdaq listing on track for sometime in the fourth quarter of this year, possibly as early as October. What makes this notable isn't just the size. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley are reportedly leading an offering that could raise more than $60 billion. It's the timing. CNBC reported on August 21st that Anthropic's prospectus will explicitly list AI backlash as a risk factor, an unusually candid admission for a company about to ask the public for money. The filing is expected to flag negative public sentiment toward data centers and AI-driven job losses as legitimate business risks, at a moment when politicians on both sides of the aisle are increasingly pushing back on the data center expansion ahead of the midterms. Anthropic's growth numbers help explain the confidence anyway. The company topped a $65 billion annual revenue run rate recently, up from roughly $10 billion just a year prior. Explosive growth builds substantially on its Claude Code, coding agent, and expanding enterprise tools like Claude Cowork, alongside deep integrations with productivity suites like Microsoft 365. Secondary market platforms including Forge Global and Equitizen have reportedly priced private shares at implied valuations between $1.05 and $1.15 trillion, a real premium over that already massive $965 billion private mark. There is also risk baked into that number. Investors should expect the prospectus to disclose ongoing litigation, including a pre-listing class action filing, alongside detailed competitive risk factors tied to rivals like OpenAI and Google. The sheer capital intensity of frontier model development, the data centers, the chips, the electricity, will almost certainly headline the risk factor section too, since compute capacity is directly tied to revenue growth for every major lab right now. If the IPO proceeds on schedule, Anthropic would comfortably beat OpenAI, which remains widely expected to go public sometime in early 2027, to the public markets first, turning what began as an AI safety-focused underdog into potentially the largest tech listing investors have seen in years. Number 7. YouTube just quietly changed the definition of a view. As of August 24th, YouTube counts a view that instant a video begins to play, literally from the first frame before the old 30-second threshold ever kicked in. Google confirmed the change applies globally across every video format on the platform, replacing a patchwork of counting rules that had confused creators for years. The knock-on effect is enormous. View counts across the platform, including on massive channels like MrBeast's, are expected to climb noticeably overnight, even though the actual audience behavior hasn't changed at all. It's a reminder that on YouTube, even the numbers you think you understand can move without a warning. The streaming war's quietest battlefield. YouTube versus everyone. Let's close out the main stories by tying together two YouTube moves that together say a lot about where the platform is headed. First, the structural one. YouTube has overhauled how creators even qualify to start earning money. As of a policy shift that takes effect February 1st of the next year, new creators will need 8,000 qualified watch hours over the past year or 20 million qualified short views within 90 days to enter the partner program, double the previous 4,000 hour threshold. TechCrunch confirmed the change won't retroactively affect anyone already inside the program, but it dramatically raises the floor for anyone trying to break in from scratch. At a moment when short-form competition from TikTok and Instagram Reels has never been more intense. Second, the competitive one. According to Bloomberg, YouTube is now offering select creators millions of dollars to post their videos exclusively to the platform for a set window of time, specifically to keep Netflix from poaching its biggest stars. Sources familiar with the conversations say creators who post to both YouTube and Netflix simultaneously will face real consequences to their standing on the platform. This follows Netflix's growth appetite for creator-made content as a genuine programming category, not just a licensing afterthought. And it signals that YouTube CEO Neil Mohan sees exclusivity, not just a revenue share, as his next major retention lever. Layer on top of that the view counting change we covered earlier, where a view now registers from the literal first frame of playback, and you get a platform simultaneously making it harder to get in the door, more lucrative to stay loyal once you're established, and more generous with the raw numbers everyone uses to judge success. It's not a coincidence. With YouTube having paid out roughly $100 billion to creators over the last 4 years, according to the company's own figures, this is a platform actively trying to reposition itself as a full creator economy, shopping tools, brand partnership, infrastructure, and fan funding included, rather than simply the biggest AD network on the internet. Whether tightening the front door while sweetening the back end actually keeps top talent loyal, or just pushes ambitious new creators toward platforms with a lower bar to entry, is the real question heading into next year. And I will be experiencing it firsthand with you guys here. Number 9. Gamescom Opening Night Live 2026. One of gaming's biggest showcases just dropped a Witcher bombshell, a LEGO city builder, and a killer surprise finale. Gamescom Opening Night Live 2026 wrapped up Tuesday after roughly 2 hours of world premieres. The headline reveals included LEGO Skylines, a new LEGO-branded city builder, and Pony Island 2, the long-awaited follow-up to the cult indie horror hit. CD Projekt Red used the show to tease fresh Witcher content, while confirming The Witcher 4 itself would sit this showcase out entirely. According to outlets covering the stream live, the show closed with what multiple writers called a genuinely jaw-dropping surprise finale. With Xbox's own 25th anniversary showcase running the very next day, this year's Gamescom is shaping up to be one of the densest announcement weeks gaming has seen in months. Number 10. Nintendo Switch 2 Golden Month. If you are watching this over Final Fantasy XIV gameplay, here is why the Switch 2 has had its biggest month yet. Nintendo Switch 2 is in the middle of an unprecedented run of AAA third-party ports. Final Fantasy XIV Online arrived in early access on August 4th, the MMO's first ever appearance on Nintendo hardware. Lies of P Complete Edition followed on the 6th. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered landed on the 11th, and today, August 27th, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 goes live, finally freeing MGS4 from PlayStation 3 exclusivity after nearly 2 decades. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition closes out the month tomorrow. 5 major ports, 0 new first-party exclusives. But for anyone building a hybrid library like me, this might be the console's strongest single month since launch. I cannot wait to run MGS4 after all these years of waiting. Number 11. The godfather of the immersive sim walked away. Warren Spector, the legendary designer behind Deus Ex, System Shock, and Disney Epic Mickey, announced his retirement from game development on LinkedIn, closing out a career spanning 44 years. "I am retiring from game development," he wrote. "At least I think so. I've been here before and changed my mind, but this time I'm pretty sure I mean it." Spector, 70, cited both his age and unspecified health issues, adding that the modern industry simply isn't as much fun for me anymore. He still says there are 3 more games he wishes he could have made. Number 12. Xbox 25th birthday. Xbox just turned 25, and they built a controller to prove it. Microsoft used its Gamescom showcase window to celebrate 25 years of Xbox with a limited edition Xbox Series X and matching wireless controller, both featuring a translucent design, directly inspired by the very first Xbox console from 2001. The reveal landed alongside a second Xbox broadcast, packed with trailers for titles like Gears of War E-Day, Fable, and Forza Horizon 6. It's a small, nostalgia-driven moment inside a much bigger showcase push, but for a long time Xbox fans who remember the original chunky, translucent green Duke controller, it's a deliberate, well-earned callback. Number 13. Amazon versus Walmart. Amazon's clothing empire just quietly buried Walmart, and the numbers are staggering. Buried inside this week's Amazon coverage is a stat worth knowing on its own. New PYMNTS intelligence research shows Amazon's share of total US clothing spending has doubled since 2019, climbing from 8.5% to 17% by 2025. Over the same 6-year stretch, Walmart's share actually shrank, dipping from 7.3% down to 6.2%, and the gap was still widening as of the first half of this year. It's a quiet reminder that while everyone's watching Amazon's AI headlines, the company's old-fashioned retail dominance keeps compounding in the background. Number 14. Mobile game publishers on top again. It took mobile game publishers 21% less time to hit their first 20 million this year. Here is why that matters. A new report from ad tech firm Moloko found that the average time for a mobile game to reach $20 million in combined in-app purchase and subscription revenue fell 21% between 2022 and 2025. Translation: hit mobile games are scaling to serious money dramatically faster than they used to, driven by sharper user acquisition targeting and maturing monetization tools. For an industry that spent years complaining about rising costs and saturated markets, it's a genuinely rare piece of good news. Proof that the games actually breaking through are doing it on a faster, more efficient curve than ever before.